Lately, I have been thinking about thinking, which is to say, thinking about the distinction between two different types of thinking, and the one is what I guess you could call flat thinking, and the other, well, the whole point of the distinction is you can't have a good name, of a really good name for it. You think like in like rough thinking, complex thinking, detailed thinking, but part of the whole problem is that is that that any description of it strips a meaning away and can be misinterpreted and give the wrong impression. So flat thinking is like sort of superficial buzzword slogany thing that goes things like tradition, like in politics, tradition, or progress, or in business, all sorts of meaningless, inspirational sounding buzzwords. But of course, yeah, they can be. And the thing is that like sort of the sort of thing that's sort of superficial and very emotionally coded, whether to impose euphoria or fear or whatever, and it happens to me all the time. But the whole sort of attitude that Hollywood and advertising have cultivated for decades, because a story that can be told that is just covers life in an hour and a half is going to be, you can't get to know anyone. You can't really get to know anyone in that amount of time. And as for much less for advertisements, there are, and in contrast, I was thinking of myself who learned all the countries of the world and their capitals as a kid, and then knew what the Linnaean classification system was, what a phylum, a class, an order, a family, a genus, and a species were, and what lots of the different subcategories in them were, and then later I learned all the monarchs of England from William the Conqueror on, and not just them, but also who they were married to, and how each one was related to the previous and next, and of course highlights of the events that happened in their various reigns, and some idea of how things flowed came naturally from that. And I also noticed in longer media, in longer big things, long TV series or big books, that goes into more detail about everything that happens. And in anime, there are a couple of anime that showed it clearly. And a contrast between two showbiz related anime, Skip Beat and Oshi no Ko. Skip Beat came out a while ago, and I don't want to knock it. The character writing in Skip Beat is amazing, but its depiction of the entertainment industry is totally implausible and silly. Actually the mangaka didn't really want to write about the entertainment industry, and you can tell. And Oshinoko, on the other hand, and and is also about a story about trying to get into make it in the entertainment industry, and also is not just one aspect, covers various different forms like TV dramas, reality TV shows, live plays, and stage plays, etc. But with all of them, it goes into detail to describing how they work and what the problems with them are, and why those things happen, and cares about the realities of TV dramas and reality shows and so on and so forth, and conveys to the viewer how those things actually work in contrast to that. Part of what sparked this is also these really trashy online minute-long neo soap operas that, stuff with the rich people, stuff about the lives and machinations of wealthy people, that, as someone from a wealthy family myself, just cringed, because there's all this general stuff about their company and about companies and so forth that clearly showed that the writers had no idea what they were actually talking about. And that's flat thinking. And this is and this that flat thinking consumes politics completely, because both sides or any side, or any passionate side of people, is the people who screaming or upset about things they don't actually understand or know anything about, and that's across the board. Conservatives don't actually know about gay or trans people, or how their world works, and progressives actually don't know about how religious people work, or how the mechanics of healthcare or education or whatever works. And actually, I think neither of them know anything about how education shouldn't work. Most of any of them on either side doesn't have any idea how anything actually works, but they just trust different people. But the thing is, most forms of leftism started out with something having like real detail. You could call it nerdy knowledge about how things work and how things were wrong, but when it was taken out of context, the idea spread and turned into something else, and tried to do things that it couldn't. And whenever the thing is with the flat thinking, it comes from the thing. Yes, because the thing with the detailed nerdy knowledge is it's inherently fragmented, and every worthwhile person knows really well about certain specific things, and things like the real knowledge, you could call it, about certain things, but they think flatly about everything else, and don't even realize it, because with the things they think that the things they don't know about are fundamentally simple. And I think it's a universal tendency to think that people who know about things other than when don't know what you know, are stupid, and their field is objectively less valuable. I know I have that tendency, which is hard because with regard to knowledge, I'm sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. And the thing is, no one, and so anytime you try to universalize or to have universal anything, it or any broad field, field or any general anything thing is that must necessarily have a lack of knowledge and information and be and end up being meaningless and ineffective. So any large term plan can't work. And of course, the tragedy is that the idea of the free market is so everyone can specialize and do their own thing, but the advocacy and arguments for the free market end up becoming flat and vapid too, and even with things and basically for the flattening process, everything gets ruined, and it's especially hard for religion when it's not when the core issues are things that are intangible to begin so you constantly inevitably have specialists in certain areas fighting with specialists in other areas because neither of them understands the other's language. Like I heard a while about mistakes between different kinds of scientists that caused a problem because they used different measurement systems and trying to unify and any attempt to unify or standardize everything inevitably leads to nothing but destruction. Because people don't have a limited capacity to absorb all the knowledge that exists, and also they don't, partly because they can only go so long without the necessities of life, and trying to get knowledge means to get necessarily knowledge generally comes at the expense of the productivity needed to supply one's material needs. So the only solution to this is to have someone who is capable of consciously holding all the knowledge, all the facts about every subject in existence simultaneously and without any time limitations and without any limitations based on needs like water or food or like hunger or thirst or anything someone or maybe a small group of say 3 people who could be omniscient. Merry Christmas.